Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah James from JJB Beads, and we are live with Meredith Roddy from Beadalon. Welcome, my beady friend.
Well, hello there.
Hello.
My name is Sarah James from JJB Beads, and
whoopsies. I guess we're gonna have to. Oh, there we go. That was from your computer. Hi, everybody. It is Thursday morning. Thursday morning is when we do live tutorials here on JJB Beads, and this is the part 2 of our, I don't know, potentially infinite number of seed bead series that we are doing with Meredith Roddy.
Wait, what did I sign up for?
I said we were going to do 3, and then you said we could just keep on going. So
that does sound like something that I would say. I do love seed beads.
I know you do. And how are you today? We're coming off of Memorial Day weekend. I know that that's one of your favorite holidays, beach and all of those things. How are you doing this week?
I'm good. Yesterday was a little tough getting back into the swing of things. I will definitely, I will cop to that, but I'm good. I'm got my head in the game and things are going. We were just talking offline before we started live about how busy Thursdays tend to be. And my, it's just the list of things that need to get done both for work, but then also for life, but it's all good. I like being busy. So
totally. I hear that. I'm the same way. Like if I don't have enough going on, which I don't know if I've ever not had enough going on, but I would imagine that if I did not have enough going on, I would feel bored and that would not be very fun. So, you know, between personal and always stuff with JJB Beads, we have so much fun stuff in the works, whether it's planning new products or new projects that we're doing on these live tutorials or events that we are doing together. There's always something in the works here.
Yeah, and it's funny, usually I feel like for many people, the summertime kind of things slow down, but for us in the beading world, summer is my busiest time. There are so many fun things going on and things to prepare for and shows and some things that Sarah is going to announce in a couple of minutes. But yeah, there's just it's like a race to the finish, I feel like, until school starts, and school hasn't even ended yet.
I hear that completely. But you know what? That's what's something that makes summertime so very fun, is that we have all these really great things to look forward to.
Yeah.
So last year at this time, it was a very, up in the air sort of situation, because it's like, okay, well, it's summertime. I'm used to being able to make plans with my friends and family, go to bead shows, go to the beach, go out to eat. And then all of that was just like,
yeah, last summer was kind of the worst. I almost just don't even want to think about it ever again.
And then all of a sudden, it's just like, I mean, it's not over yet, but it feels like just like a switch is flipped.
Yeah.
But one thing from last summer that I'm really excited to just talk about, we announced it last week, but then it was Memorial Day. So, lots of people were out and about. I was away. I know Meredith was away. I'm sure many of you also had summertime plans last weekend, which I hope that everyone had a safe and happy and fun weekend. But last weekend, we announced that we are once again hosting JJB Beads Summer Camp, our virtual jewelry making camp right here online coming up in August. And Meredith is back. Beadalon is involved. So many of our other beady friends from the industry, jewelry designers, incredible vendors with cool products are all pulling together to make this amazing summer camp kit and this live action virtual event happen once again. I'm so excited.
So I just, I read your email to Wyatt this morning and remembered that the instructors all get the full kit. And I'm so excited to see, because there's some really cool companies and people participating, and a lot of new faces too, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, the summer camp kit this year is really we just next leveled on this kit. It's of course there's JJB Beads mixes and strands and all of that goes involved, because it's our event. Then we've got really amazing items from Beadalon. We've got full spools of WildFire, Supple Max, artistic wire, all kinds of really fun findings from you guys. Then we've got a whole findings kit from Tierra Cast.
Oh, no way.
Yes. I'm so excited. Cord end findings, ear wires, clasps from TC. We've got Toho seed beads. We've got Delicas. And there's just a whole laundry list of stuff. I'm not going to go on and on about here. I think that Danielle just dropped a link. So you guys can take a look at what's involved in the summer camp kit. And then we have got 9 classes on the books. It's $27 per class. And that includes all of your materials.
So people can pick and choose their classes. So it's not a whole thing.
No, we can't do it that way because it's a summer camp group and it wouldn't have that camper vibe, if we didn't do it all together. So it breaks down to being $27.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
But like what I think that you would probably agree that one of the coolest parts about summer camp last year is how we all kind of like gathered around the virtual campfire and, had bunk buddies and had like this really amazing sense of summertime camper camaraderie.
Yeah, I loved it. And for me, especially last summer, it was so helpful for my soul to be a part of a group of people who are all going on a virtual trip, a journey together. And I think that I at least still need that sense of we're all in this together. And I always say, I love hanging out with people who love to do what I love to do, which is why I love Facebook Lives, why I love going to virtual Jesse James Beads camp. Yeah, all good stuff.
And you know what else is cool about the virtual summer camp? It's like, yes, even when bead shows do get back in action, like we can't in Pennsylvania, I'm saying Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania, Jesse James Beads and Beadalon. We can't in Pennsylvania hang out with the people that are in Arizona, right, or the people that are in South Africa or in other parts around the world. Being able to have this virtual experience, we can all come together and hang out and make new friends from all across the world, all from, the comfort of our space right here.
And I really do love being in my space. I love being in my space, but also welcoming people into my space.
Yeah, and it's nice when you have when you're doing an intensive jewelry making course to be able to be in your spot where you like to create, whether it's on your kitchen counter or in your studio or in your living room, you have your tools, you're able to really hone in on the instructions and then be able to watch the video tutorials, though we are airing them live, be able to watch them again and again. It's just like last year was so much fun. I am so stoked that we're doing it again.
I know, me too. Me too. Something to look forward to. For sure.
So segueing into that, I did mention that we're going to be having the Miyuki Delicas and Toho 11s in the summer camp kit. Meredith is here for the seed bead series, part 2, where we are learning brick stitch. Meredith, tell us a little bit what is brick stitch? What are we using? Take it away.
Okay. So first of all, Sarah, I totally forgot in the beginning. Can you accept my second camera into our meeting?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
So that we can set up the overhead so we can see what's going on down in because showing seed beading like this, not gonna work. Okay, so brick stitch is one of the stitches that hold on,
there she is.
That's like my least favorite view of myself. Okay, hold on. Now I got to get everything set up.
So nice. We record you twice.
There we go. Okay. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Perfect. Okay. Now we've got everything all set up. No worries. Okay. So brick stitch. These are some brick stitch earrings. We're going to do something similar for our project today, but I love how brick stitch is so lined up, and okay, so let me get my words together for a moment. So it's a very symmetrical kind of a stitch. It's very similar to the look of peyote, but it's actually a completely different thread path and a completely different construction. And it makes for a nice firm, I almost want to call it like a fabric. And one of my favorite things to do with the brick stitch is make earrings that have fringe coming off of a triangle. So I thought today what we could do is do this project, but actually do it in a rainbow color way. So I know that Sarah, you have some beads that you have put together for a special promotion for Pride Month. And so I thought we could do a rainbow palette for our brick stitch earrings today in honor of that. And then maybe you could talk about that a little bit as well. So to get started with learning how to make our earring, oh, and I just brought out really quickly, just for fun, the same stitch in 11 O's. So these are actually cube beads, and we're going to do this part with Delicas today, but this is what it looks like with seed beads. So just a little bit of back and forth for those of you who might not know the difference between these two words that I keep throwing about as if they are interchangeable. Delica beads are beads that are little, oops, you know, my mom has a tendency to always call when I'm doing Facebook Lives. So apologies for that. Got to get reset on my. So Delica beads are little cylinders. They are cubes and the best that you can think of are squares. While size 11 seed beads, and I'll just refer to them as seed beads today, are round. So when you use Delicas, it creates a fabric that is very uniform because those little beads all lock together. So it's almost like one surface. But with the seed beads, what you get is a more organic look. So just file that back away as we are embarking on our seed bead journey. And I believe that last week, was it last week that we did peyote stitch, or last month, I should say, that we started out with peyote stitch. And that is kind of the first place that I like to start with my seed bead journey. So I would definitely recommend going back and rewatching that Facebook Live to kind of to start part one. So today what I'm going to be using to demonstrate is WildFire. And I'm actually going to be using WildFire in the 0.006 diameter. It's also available in 0.008. This is my faded spool. If you watch me on Facebook Live a lot, you've seen this one. I have to get a new spool to demonstrate with. But the reason why I love WildFire is because it's super strong. It doesn't stretch. It is not easily pierced with a needle, and it makes a really nice beaded fabric when you're stitching with it. The important thing to remember about WildFire is when you are threading your needle, you always want to take your chain nose pliers and flatten the end. So that's the most important takeaway of anything that I teach about using seed beads is just flatten that end. And then when you are needling your thread, you want to hold that thread right in between your thumb and forefinger and just wiggle the top of your needle onto that thread. And it will probably only go to the amount that it is flattened on the top, but then you just want to hold everything tight and then pull the end over with your chain nose pliers. So just a quick little tip there for needling the thread with WildFire. Otherwise, it could tend to be a little challenging, and we want our beading to be fun, not challenging. Unless you're me, I do like a beading challenge. So comfortable length of thread, I like to pull out a wingspan. You can't really see me pulling out the wingspan right now, but I just pulled out a wingspan, and I'm about 5'3". So that is about the amount of thread that I generally use when I am beading, unless I'm making something that I know is going to be very small. But I very rarely will use a longer piece of thread, because then your thread tends to tangle, and it's a lot easier. In actuality, it doesn't seem like it is, but it is actually a lot easier to add and finish off thread than it is to undo knots. So the most important thing also for cutting your WildFire, you want to use a very sharp pair of scissors. And see how I'm coming in here on the very the jaw, or not really the jaw, but the sharpest part of my scissors, and I'm actually pulling down to cut that WildFire. So just a couple little tips on working with WildFire that will make everything a lot easier. So as I was looking for my seed bead, my yellow Delicas this morning, I came across more of my big 4mm cube beads. And this is what I love demonstrating with for learning stitches, because once you come in here with these little teeny tiny Delicas, even though I'm able to bring my camera down pretty close, it's much easier to see the very beginning with these great big guys. So that's what we're going to do first. And we're actually technically learning 2 stitches today. We're learning a ladder stitch and a brick stitch, because to start the brick stitch, you need to start with a series of beads that have been put together using the ladder stitch. So it's actually a little bonus today. Okay, so for these particular earrings, I'm actually going to start by picking up 4 beads. We're going to make a ladder that is 2 beads tall. And I just want to get my camera nice and there we go, nice and whatever set up. All right, so I'm going to take these 4 beads, and actually before I do that, I'm going to put a stopper bead on. I don't always work with a stopper bead, but it's a really good habit to get into. It makes your beading life a lot easier. So I'm just putting on a different color bead. I'm moving it to, oh, I don't know, maybe about 4 inches from the end. And I'm going to tie an overhand knot. Just keep it in place. You could go back around again. I just have it tend to do mine with an overhand knot, just like that. Okay, so just a little stopper bead, which is exactly what it sounds like. It stops the beads from falling off. So I'm going to pick up 4 beads, and I'm going to come down here. And you could do this, well, we won't. We're just going to do it with a 4. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, bring my needle back up through the 2 beads, and I'm going to pull my thread through. I should really have a behind the scenes camera so you can see all of the contorting that I need to do in order to not knock my camera, but also show what I'm doing. And so now I'm going to come back down through these 2 beads. And now I have started my ladder stitch. Sharon, I love that seed beading is your new addiction. I love how they all come together like good little soldiers when I'm doing the stitches the right way. Okay, so now I have my first ladder done. I'm going to pick up 2 more, and I'm going to go back down the top and up through the bottom. So it's a little bit like right angle weave, if that's something that you are familiar with. That's kind of how it helps me to think about it. All you're doing is you're creating rows of these beads that line up next to each other. So if it's coming out the top, you want to go through the bottom. And you always want to lock the 2 beads that you just put on into place by going back through them. Okay, and so however long you want your
however long you want your beginning row to be, that's how many you add. And so I'm going to do one more for our actual piece today. We're going to do 7 because I have 7 colors of fringe that I want to use. But for this, we're just going to do the 5. Okay, so now I have 5 rows of my ladder stitch done here. And now I am going to start with the brick stitch. I'm just going to bop this up just a little bit so I stop hitting it. So for the brick stitch, what we are actually doing when we're making that triangle is a decrease. And I think it's actually easier to learn this way and easier to do the brick stitch this way. I'm going to pick up 2 beads and I'm going to look at the top here and see my my thread bridges. So I just want to make sure. Oh yeah, we can totally see our thread bridges. 1 thread bridge here, 1 thread bridge here. I'm going to skip the first thread bridge and go through the second one. And then these little beads are going to line up. I say like good little soldiers, but like good little soldiers, just like that. And then I'm going to come back up through that second bead. Now there are a couple of different ways to lock this bead right here down, because it will be a little pointy right here. My favorite way to do this is actually not to even worry about it on this row. It will lock down once I do the next row. If you want to, you can continue back around with the thread path, but I find that it's actually easier just to do it in the next row. And I'll do one more row with the big beads before we get to the Delicas, and you'll be able to see that. So I picked up another bead, and I like working from behind toward me, especially when I'm demonstrating. I think it's easier to see that way. So I've now picked up just 1 bead. So 2 beads on the first, then 1 bead each subsequent. And I'm coming once again under that thread path toward myself, pulling it through, and then going back up through that bead. So that motion is what locks the bead in place. And see, once again, how that guy is a little bit funky. He will fix himself, or I will fix him in the next path, or the next row, I should say. So again, 1 more underneath that thread bridge, pull it through, and then back up through that bead. And that is going to be the brick stitch for the whole way. So I'm just going to do that 1 more row before we switch to the Delicas, so we can see how that bead comes to attention. All right, so every time you start the row, you're going to pick up 2. And if you pick up 1, it will be obvious that it's not looking right. So just remember, each time is picking up 2, and then going through that second thread bridge, and then back up. And each time since we are decreasing, each time we go, each time we add a row, we are doing 1 less bead, which is what gives that nice triangle. So see how when I added that row here and I added this bead here, this bead came into line, but this bead is now the one that's a little bit funky. So next row that I do, he will come into line, and everything will eventually come into a nice order, and everyone will be stacked really well. So that is the thread path for the brick stitch. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the Delicas now, so you can see how they look and how they work, and then how our earring is going to work up. So I think I'm going to use these gold Delicas. I had originally wanted to use yellow for my top part here. So it would be like the sun and then a rainbow. But I don't have any straight up yellow Delicas, which is super weird given the number of Delicas that I have. But I thought gold would be nice too. It's kind of like a golden sun with a rainbow. I had also thought maybe I would use some white and do make it like a cloud, but I changed my mind. So we're going to go here. Okay, so now once again, see, I always forget to do my stop bead because I don't always use a stop bead. So I'm going to use white for my stop bead. And again, just putting that bead on. And if I were doing this, not demonstrating, I would probably use either green or white WildFire. But because I want everybody to be able to see, I am using the black. So I'm going to pick up those 4 Delicas. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just like I did with those great big cube beads. And you can see how different the look is when you're actually using the Delicas. Much, much smaller and much more delicate. Get it? Delicate. Okay, so I put those 4 on and I'm coming back through those first 2 beads and pulling it up, and then coming back down the next 2 beads. And sometimes this tail can get in the way. I usually just tuck it here between my pinky and my ring finger, but if it starts really bothering you, you can either knot it off or weave it back in, depending on your preference for knotting or weaving. But I find that it is good to hold on to in the beginning to help me with my beadwork. So again, every time when I'm doing my ladder stitch, our bonus stitch for today, I pick up 2 beads, go down the beads that are already in my ladder, and then back up through the 2 beads that I just added to lock them in place. And sometimes this row is not quite as straight as you want it to be. And there are a couple of different ways to fix that. The first is to go nice and slow and make sure that you are tightening everything up. The other way is to actually go back through and reinforce your thread paths. But the last way is actually the easiest way, which is once we start adding our fringe, that the Delicas will line up really nicely. So a good lesson is not to necessarily worry as you are going along about the beads all being perfectly in line, because usually by the end of the project, they will line up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to do 2 more. So 1, 2, up through the bottom. Sarah, are you beading along with me today?
I am not beading along with you, Meredith.
Okay.
I am watching.
I was not sure.
So
I was not sure.
I have to tell you, so I know that seed beading is very daunting for those that are new. I think that is a general consensus that if you have not worked with seed beads or WildFire or Delicas or Tohos or any of these things, that it can be a little bit scary to get going with it. But what I can say from Meredith, the last class that we did, and I was able to take, the hour and bead along with you, I found that once you get it going, maybe you make a mistake or 2 mistakes and you have to undo your work. But once you get that pattern down, once you just figure it out once, it's like getting a math problem. It's like getting your times tables down. Once you know it and you figure out that pattern, how your fingers are working the thread and the beads, that's it. You've done it. So it just takes getting your feet wet and getting your hands dirty.
And I will say that I have made more mistakes in my seed bead journey than I could even count. But okay, so I've just picked up 2 more of those little Delicas. I'm going to skip that first thread bridge and come back underneath the second one. And sometimes it can be a little funky because I do, because it was ladder stitch, I have 2 bridges or 2 threads in my bridge, but it works. You just have to be patient. And that's the other thing too, I think, about seed beading, is being patient and giving yourself grace, because you will make a ton of mistakes. It can be a frustrating process, but it's a learning process. And once you get it, then you get it. Okay, so now I did my 2 for the beginning, and every subsequent one is just going to be that 1. So I'm going to come underneath my thread bridge, pull it through, come on up.
And I just have to say, Meredith, it is very relaxing to watch you do these stitches.
Oh, to watch me do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be very relaxing if I were doing it also right now, once, you know, with the caveat, once you get it down. But like everyone, I think, could agree watching this, has very like a very meditational flow to it. Once you know where the thread needs to go and where you're locking one bead in place after the next.
It does. And that's part of why I love seed bead work. It's very much, I liken it to sewing. If you like sewing by hand, I mean, that's really what you're doing. You're just stitching each bead into place. So when I did, I actually came to seed beading via beading embroidery, but more so, less kind of what people are doing now with embroidery and more like a cross stitch embellishment. So I would do like either cross stitch or embellish or embroidered pieces with thread and then add seed beads for embellishment. And that's kind of how I started with seed beads, like this, in addition to the French beaded flowers that I'm obsessed with.
Yes.
All right. So have we done a French beaded flowers Facebook Live for you? That would be a good.
We did one last summer. But I would be down to bring that one back.
Sounds good. It's just one of my favorite techniques. And once you learn the basics, there are so many places that you can go with it. That I love my French beaded flowers. I don't get to do it nearly as much as I would like, because they can be time consuming if you make the big ones. And you know me, I like to go big or go home.
Heck yes. Do you know what else I would really love to do, Meredith? Perhaps I'm going to drop a link here on the Dress It Up Buttons channel. Perhaps we could do some of this cross stitch bead embroidery as a sewing mixed media, more crafty project.
That sounds like fun. I haven't done it in probably 20 years.
Oh.
But it is just like riding a bike, right? I like to max out on a specific craft and then move on to the next one. But it's always fun to circle back around to my roots. That's actually how I got back into beading in the first place, is by doing cross stitch. So I come by it very, very honestly, the kind of repetitive stitching. I'm just making sure that everybody can still see what I'm doing. I'm a little far away. I feel like on the Zoom, it looks like it's closer than on the Facebook Live. I don't know why. That's weird.
Sharon has a question. What size WildFire are you using, Meredith?
So I'm using the 0.006 WildFire. That's my go-to for stitching. The 008 is really good for if I know that I'm not going to have to go back through my beads several times, but it can get a little thick, especially with these little tiny beads. If I'm using size 8s, or even 6s, then the 008 is perfectly fine. But I like using size 15s a lot too. So that generally, the 008 is generally too thick to go through the 15s more than twice. You can do them at 2 times, but I find that the 0.006 is my go-to. Okay, so now I've come to the top and I have my 2 beads here at the top. And what I like to do is add a wire guardian. It would have been good if I had my wire guardians out and not put away, but they are right. They should be right here. Here we go. Okay, so wire guardian. It's just a great way to finish off the top, to be able to add an ear wire, to add a clasp, to add whatever you want to the top of that, earring or whatever it is that you're making. And for this, all you need to do is go up one side, right? Super, super complicated here on the Facebook Live today. And then come down the other side. And when I am using wire guardians in my jewelry, I generally will squeeze the ends together. But in this case, you actually don't need to do that, because they should sit really nicely right on the top of those 2 seed beads. Okay, super cute, super fun. Love it. All right, so I'm just taking my needle down one side. And now we are going to add our fringe. And what I will do at the end, so I went through these beads, so now they are all lined up really nicely. But my beads on this side are a little wonky, right? They're a little wonkier than I would like them to be. So what I will do is go through the whole, all of my fringe, and then come back up that side. So I came down this side here to align all of those beads, and I'm going to go back up through these guys at the very end so that they will all line up as well. And I say that for a couple of reasons, not the least of which is I'm not sure that we're going to want to spend the next hour watching me fringe up all of the beads. But Sarah, you'll be the judge of that. Okay, so now I have my triangle and I'm ready to add my fringe. And I have, these are all size 11 seed beads that came in these wonderful packages, these waterfall packages from my friend Sarah. And I just put them all in little Tic Tac containers. It's just easier for me to store the beads that way. So let's see, I think I'm going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I have to figure out how long I want my fringe to be. And I think I want it to be, let's go 15. So 15 beads.
That is clever with the Tic Tac containers. And I am just going to make a quick statement here. Guys, how do you store your seed beads, or how do you store your beads at home as Meredith is picking up her 15 seed beads? I'd be curious to know.
Me too. All right, so now I'm picking up 3 to make my little picot. You can do 1 for your picot, but I always do 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip these 3 beads and go all the way back up those 15 that I just added. Okay, so here we're making our fringe. Get my little picot done nicely. And then what I want to do is I want to go back up through the bead that I just came out of. I'm actually going to go through both on that ladder. And this is, remember how in the beginning I was saying that when we go back through and we add the fringe, we can get that ladder really nice and straight. So this is how we are going to do that. So don't fret if your ladder is a little crooked, because this is going to straighten it all up. So now I have my little picot here on the end. I have my red color added, and now I'm ready for orange. And I am just going to put my red back in to its container, because knowing me, I will end up with a rainbow bead mix at the end of this adventure, and I'll just sweep everything into a pile and then not address it ever again. So I want to try to get everybody back in where it needs to be. All right, so now I am tapping out what looks like hopefully about 15 of these, and I'm using that same thread. I haven't had to add any thread. Now this guy keeps getting in my way, and I would probably go ahead at this point and either tie him off or weave him in. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oops, sorry guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 15. Okay, so I have my 15 beads. And on the ends here, you could add a contrasting bead, you could add a crystal, you could add size 15s, I often will do. And there are so many possibilities for playing around with this fringe. I was actually thinking, as I was getting ready, of trying to find a rainbow of JJB in all different kinds of either check glass or boho or anything fun, but I kind of ran out of time. It took me long enough to find all of the right colors of the seed beads that I was looking for. So I lost steam on that project, but maybe for another day. And I'm just giving a gentle tug to get everything nice and tightened up. If you have any gaps in here, just kind of want to work it so that you have all of the things right. I'm just gonna snip that because he's annoying me right now. Okay, so now let's go for the yellow. And Sarah, talk to me a little bit about these seed beads that I am playing with right now. What is their story?
These are seed beads that we brought on. Seed beads is a very important part of jewelry making. Whether you are going to stitch them up like this or not, seed beads make for really nice spacers. And a lot of the projects that we do at Jesse James Beads are stringing projects. So you can use the seed beads within your designs as little spacer beads to add this kind of like knotted look. Or we also really like the way that seed beads make like a seed bead chain to do like the non-focally part of your necklace. So anyway, we'd been wanting to do seed beads for a while, got in touch with Toho, said, all right, let's look at some colors. Let's bring on some palettes. What we do at Jesse James Beads, besides coming up with beads that are really great for stringing projects, is we like to put together color palettes that we think are going to work really well in your designs. So from there, we did these really cute little waterfall style packages, as Meredith so aptly named them just a moment ago. And you get a little trio. Yes, there it is. And you get a trio of colors that go together. And not only are they they're not all the same like sheen of seed beads. Like your mind would be blown. Your mind probably has already been blown at a bead show or at a bead store going in and seeing like all the different spectral of colors that there are and different seed bead finishes, whether they're matte or they're shiny or they're silver lined. There's like a million different types. So we put together these little 3-way packets that give you a little bit of everything. There's some silver lined ones, there's some matte seed beads, there's some high gloss seed beads, and it just works really, really well, whether you're going to like take the plunge and do these like beautifully ornate or like, a little bit next level up stitching projects like Meredith has been teaching us, or if you just want to add like a little bit of seed bead spacer to your designs.
That is the best explanation of seed bead everything that I've ever heard. Well done.
Well, thanks. Meredith.
Good stuff. And I'd like to think that I had a little something to do with it too, because I love seed beads so much and I love working with them.
Do you know what? You're right. Lest we forget. Okay. So when we like just rewind it back to when Jesse James Beads was bringing seed beads on, I said to Meredith, we need seed beads. This is what they do for stringing projects. Like, I know that, but I don't know where to begin. Like, what's the most popular size? What do you think we should do? And this is Meredith led me to the 11 O's. And here we have them.
And so now you also sent me some in these containers.
Yay.
So is this new, like a new way of packaging them, a new way of?
Those are, and I am going to drop a link. Those are from the Pantone collection. So we did seed beads to match all of the 2021 spring summer trend colors. And though we only, oh my gosh, have I even sent you these? I don't think I have. We have 3mm check beads that are so darn cute in the Pantone colors also. I'm dropping a link. Seed beads and 3.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm glad that this is happening because I want to point out what happens when your thread starts filling up the holes in your beads. What you want to do is just kind of gently wiggle your needle while pulling it with your chain nose pliers to make sure that you can gently pull your bead, your threading material through. Sometimes your thread will fill up these holes so much that you won't be able to do that. And one of the things that is so heartbreaking, and I've done it a gazillion times, is if you pop your beads by trying to force that needle through. There are a couple of things that you can do to try to alleviate that problem. The first is switching to a smaller needle. I'm using probably a size 10 needle, but there are smaller needles that exist that will help solve that problem. Sometimes the problem actually isn't the thread. 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the needle. It's just something to be aware of as you are kind of starting on this. Oops, you know what I did? I didn't come back down. See what I did here? I did not come back down through those beads before I started adding. I got so excited to use this incredibly cool electric blue color that I didn't come back down through here. So it's something to be cognizant of is when those bead holes get filled up with that thread, regardless of what kind of thread you choose to do your seed beading with, they are made of glass, and the Delicas in particular have pretty thin walls. And so you just want to make sure that you don't pop a bead in the middle of your project because it is heartbreaking. Take it from me. I've been there and done that. And it's not good. It makes me very sad. All right, so I'm almost done. I'm almost to purple. And I love, Sarah, you were mentioning how the different seed beads have different finishes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you can really see very well, but these electric blue are this really cool matte finish. The green has that kind of shiny pearlescent finish. It's just, and it's neat. It took me a while to kind of get comfortable with mixing finishes on beads in a one particular project, but I like it. I think it looks really neat when you mix the finishes. All right, so we're to purple. And the one color that I did not have in my stash of JJB. Oh wait, no, I take that back. I had these cool light lavender ones. So we're going to use those. Not quite a deep purple, but I think, again, it's fun to mix. This is like a funky, I don't even know what's going on with that finish. They're lavender.
Is that the best orchid?
maybe.
Pretty.
Maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I will mention, if I may, that on my Facebook Live today, we are going to be we're talking all about finding forms, which are pre-made jigs to make all kinds of components. So we're going to be playing around with a whole bunch of different findings forms. We're making earrings, we're making links, we're making all kinds of stuff. And I think I'm allowed to show the new beads that Sarah sent to.
You sure are. They released
Okay.
today, and I can even show them at the end of this one. I'm like,
All right, perfect.
so tickled by this new. I just like really love how the internet is like gushing over pride. Like it should be this way, you know? And it's just really nice to see so much positivity and love and all kinds of love, all sorts of like acceptance and just diversity and all the beautiful, I don't know, all the beautiful compassion that can make up our world.
I agree. Okay, so one last thing I just want to show is I'm coming up my thread path. I'm coming back up that kind of wonky set of beads, and you can see how now I've gone through them a second time. They are nice and straight. And I'm just going to come back up and around through my wire guardian again. This does not need to be reinforced. I'm only doing it because I can. Or can I? Let's see if I can come back down this one. Nope. So I'm not going to force it. What I'm going to do, what am I going to do? I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get back through that with my needle. So I'm going to take my needle off of my thread. That is something that many people do not like to do, but I have, hopefully my WildFire tip or my WildFire needle threading tip has helped you see how easy it is to thread that needle. I wish that I hadn't gone back up through here, but I think I can pull it back out. There we go. Okay. Woo! All right, so now what I can do is I can come back around here, or I'm just going to knot this right up at the top. I'm a knotter. If I were a better person, perhaps I would weave this back through my beadwork, but I'm just going to tie a little overhand knot right here and call it a day. I like to use my WildFire cord cutter to cut and seal my knots, but since I don't see it at my fingertips, I'm just going to use the scissors here. And again, if I were making this for actuality as opposed to just demonstration and teaching, I would weave this little end tail back through also, but I'm just going to give him a little knot as well. And since I trimmed him, I just need to come in here with my chain nose pliers and pull that through and snip it off. And so fun. We have either one earring or a pendant or the start of a ton of different fringe involvements. I mean, I can just see taking this out to such a fun, different next level of making. But got a little brick stitch, we got some ladder stitch, and we got fringe. So really 3 things today that we learned on our JJB Facebook Live. And I'm going to take this through. I'm actually going to make the ear wire and kind of take this to the next level on the Beadalon Facebook Live at 2:00 this afternoon, Eastern time.
So adorable.
So we're going to take this and we're going to bring it through all the way through to the end of the day and work a little bit more on this, and then also talk about the new fun rainbow beads that I have in my possession that are making me so happy. They're right in front of me on my workspace, and I keep looking over at them. They're so pretty. Did you do the usually you do like the show and tell unboxing on Wednesday nights, right?
No, I did not, because I had
You
physical
didn't. Okay.
therapy last night and it just ran into the typical, by the time I got home, it was very late on the East Coast. So I said, okay, I'll just wait until today. I will unbox these strands official at 5 o'clock Mountain Time today. So 7 p.m. Eastern, but you'll be able to see these beads. Let me see if I can like fix this up a little bit here. Yes, you will be able to see these beads on for the first go round with Meredith at 2 p.m.
Yay!
These are our Neon Pride strands, and I am going to just spotlight this for one quick second. All right, so these are our brand new strands from Jessie James Beads. We wanted to do something special for Pride Month. We wanted to do something special with the way that we are able to dye beads at Jessie James. So these beads have been hand dyed by the dye masters, by the color theory artists at Jessie James Beads. We just discovered that we can create neon. So that was very exciting for my world personally. And neon's so trendy this year. Like, I just think that everyone's ready to get out and about and let their true colors shine. We're not hiding behind masks. We're starting to not hide behind masks anymore, which is very exciting. And bright colors are totally in. So these are the strands that you can tune in at 2 p.m. on the Beadalon channel to see Meredith playing with these babies. And then come hang out with me at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. 7 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific. And I'll give you a little bit of a deep dive of what's going on with each of these beads. I'll tell you a little bit more about our process at Jessie James, how we color match our beads and create these strands, and just like hang out and look at some pretties. Oh, and then last but not least on this one, and I'll talk about it later, we are donating, this was a suggestion of Katie Hacker, actually. We are donating 10% of all proceeds from this month's sales at Jessie James Beads to the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is a LGBTQ plus organization that assists kids that are either in the closet or coming out, that are just handling how the world can be kind of rough, and just provide a safe space for them to talk. It's really a beautiful organization, and it was shown to me by Katie Hacker's children, actually. So 10% of our proceeds will go to benefiting their cause. And that's just always something that we like to be able to give back, especially during these special months like this. Yay. Our screen looks so colorful.
I know. I love
You
it.
love it?
I love the rainbow. So much fun.
Oh, yay.
Sarah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, my friend, for coming on here. I love being able to share seed beads with the Jessie James crew via Meredith Roddy.
Hey, what are we doing next?
I don't know. That's up to you, my friend. I think you had something on the agenda, but we've got a month to figure it out.
Okay, perfect. I think I know, but I change my mind a lot, much to the chagrin of my coworkers. So I'm not gonna tease it yet, just in case I decide. But if anyone has any suggestions for what they would like to have next, they will be taken under consideration.
Amazing. And if you are all loving learning seed beads and having this sort of group camaraderie, we will be hosting Jessie James Beads Summer Camp from August 2nd to August 6th. You will have 2 seed bead classes from Meredith Roddy, and also another stitching class involving 4mm check beads by the amazing Onye Nadika Obama. So I'm dropping a quick link on Summer Camp here. Check it out. Feel free to message us with any questions. Meredith, it is always a pleasure to have you here for Jessie James Beads on Thursdays or at summer camp or whenever the heck we decide to hang out. So thank you for coming and hanging out this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks, Sarah.
All right. Well, we'll be tuning into Meredith on Beadalon later today. To all of our friends out there, thank you so much. I hope that your unofficial, official start of summer, AKA post Memorial Day week, is going well. It is almost Friday. Another weekend is at our doorstep. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you. Bye, everyone.